Hi everyone, and welcome to this, our first AWSRG seminar for the new year 2021. And welcome everyone. I'd like to begin with an acknowledgement of country, that we all live on country and acknowledge the traditional owners and wisdom custodians of the land where I live, which is in Central Jajjagrung country. Acknowledge their elders, past, present, and emerging, and likewise for each of you, wherever you are tuning in today. So today we're going to be having an overview of audio editors. Virginia Hilyard will be talking us through Audacity, and then James Harris will be giving us a run through Reaper. If there's a bit of time left over, I can show Ocean Audio as well, which is another option in terms of free, simple audio editors. So Virginia, would you like to start us off with Audacity?
Sure.
Please.
Hi everyone. Oh, can you hear me all right?
We can hear you, we can't see you.
Oh, can't see me? Can everyone
I can see you.
I can't.
Yeah. Can you see me, Andrew?
I can see you.
No, I'm just getting the blank screen, but don't worry about it. If others can see you, that's fine.
All right. That's. I think we've got some greeblies in the system tonight.
Yeah.
So we'll be, troubleshooting or not as we go, depending on what they throw up. So, yeah, I just, thanks, Andrew. I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where I am, which is the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And I want to pay my respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging. So, yeah, I'll share with you my some of the things that I've done using Audacity. And the reason I came to Audacity, I mean, my sound recording and my experience with sound is still feels very much in the beginner stage, and a lot of the sound I still work with is in relationship to image, and so workflows tend to be for me recording audio, recording files, listening to those, making a choice, pulling those into a sound editing program, topping, tailing, cleaning them up, whatever I want to do, and then dropping them into, and if they need any kind of effects, I'll sometimes do that in another program, and then I'll take them into my video editing program, Premiere. And to be honest, Premiere has quite a sophisticated audio editing option built in. The Adobe Suite, all the software programs talk to each other, as I'm sure you're aware of, and so I do a lot of my finishing in Premiere, in Premiere. When I'm working, and I've started working just solely with sound and creating what I call kind of compositions. Depending what I'm doing with the audio, I'll finish either in the audio program I'm using, or again, I'll take it into Premiere and use the sort of edit facilities in there for audio. And the reason I discovered Audacity was I was wanting to slow some sounds down very, 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 very slowly. a real stretch. And the only program I could find after doing research was Audacity that had a plugin that would do that for me. So I'll just share the screen now and I'll take you through some aspects of Audacity. And I'll show you this particular plugin, which I've been using and tend to use quite a bit. And I'm just going to move this thing right down the bottom. There we go. Okay, so this is the and so I guess there are pros and cons of Audacity, as with any program. Audacity is free. It's available via a download on the internet. Now let me go to that site.
Just Virginia, just a moment. I'm just checking with
sorry.
everyone else. I'm not getting. I can see that you've started screen sharing, but I'm not getting anything. Is anybody
I'm
else?
getting it.
So
Sorry, what was that, James?
I'm seeing it. Must be a setting on your end.
Okay.
I'm seeing it, Andrew.
No, that's all right. I'm happy to be the odd one out.
let me just play this and see if you can hear it. Can everyone hear that?
Yep.
That audio. Okay. Andrew, are you with us? Andrew? Okay. He's sorting things out.
I can't hear Andrew now.
No.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
Yes, no, that's coming through well, Virginia. That's coming through in stereo too.
Oh, good. Okay. Great. So, I'm clicking all over the place, but it used to be available through a site called SoundForge, and it's no longer hosted on SoundForge. So if you Google Audacity free download, it'll take you to the site, and it's available for both Mac and Windows. Just follow the instructions, and yeah, it's been around for quite a while. So and they have updates, and I've just updated mine actually for this, and I've struck a whole lot of problems, and so I googled that particular version as to what are the issues, and sure enough, there are known issues. So it crashed, and it is kind of wiping the track. So, there are bugs, as there are often bugs with software. The thing with Audacity is it's called destructive editing. So within the sound, within the track, I can, let's import a file. Let's just drop this one in, see where it's going to drop that. I've already made copies, but right. So if I solo that, in other software programs, if I was to change the length of this track in any way, I could, if I was to make a cut there, for example, I've changed the clip visually, but that material is still there in the program. It hasn't actually edited that material, but in Audacity it has. I can't drag that out. That material is no longer there. What it does have though is an undo, and you have unlimited undo. So that's the first thing to be aware of when you're working with Audacity is you don't have that sort of elasticity of the tracks, of the clips within your timeline. You've got to just be a little bit careful as you're moving around and and I find that I want to be saving all the time. So again, it saves as a project, not an audio file. And with the warning that I got about the new version that I'm going to cancel that. Yeah, so with Audacity, you've got to just be kind of careful that you're not cutting and losing, and I always make a copy when I'm building a project and I'm saving files, in a sort of management system, so all the project files are ending up in one folder. All of my original files, I make a copy of them into that folder, and that's what I work from. So I'm not using my original recordings. I make copies. So that's important part of workflow. Yeah, it doesn't have a very beautiful interface. To be on this Zoom here, just FYI, we located this, so that means that the audio is actually going through Zoom, so that's great. These are your basic tools here, your navigation bar here, and these are your tracks. So within the tracks, you've got mute and solo, a gain adjustment, panning left or right, and this little drop down menu here means that you can rename your track, you can view it either waveform or spectrogram. And it was so great seeing Andrew's isotope session working with the spectrogram, which is something I haven't mastered yet. I haven't really, I've just started looking at that, so I've got a lot to learn there. And you can split the tracks and move around between stereo and mono format, so you can shift the format there and you can rate them. So fairly standard kind of track options there, working with the track. You can make your track smaller. I'm quite, I work kind of quite longhand in software. I find my own way through, and it's like leaving crumbs in a forest. I need to kind of have a pathway that I can understand and be able to find my way back out, so I don't get lost in software. So I tend to work in fairly longhand. Yeah. So what I thought I'd do is, let's listen to this track. So this is a track that I pulled off a 16mm projector from an old 16mm film. It has a musical soundtrack which is quite distorted because it was it's an old piece of found footage. The whole film was found. And so there's a sort of distortion and a warble, which sounds like, a sort of wah, 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 wah through the track as the film is running through the projector and through the optical sound head. So the sound is produced via a beam of light hitting the magnetic stripe on the sound of the side of the 16mm film. So I'm not sure if anyone knows what I'm talking about. Are people familiar with 16mm? Yeah. Yeah. Great. All right, so I'll just play this. Okay. So this is a mono track. So I'm just going to walk through a few things that I might do, and I'll, in the end, I want to use that stretch, time stretch effect plugin, and just show you, what I do with that. So I'm going to make this a stereo track. So how can I do that? If I copy, no. If I go edit, copy, let's go duplicate, actually. And then if I go paste, maybe I need to, I'm just going to take these out. Oh, there it is there. Okay, so there's a different, there it is there, just repeated. But if I, okay, so there I've copied and pasted, so I've got 2 tracks of the same. I can put one to the left and one to the right, and the top one I'm going to say make a stereo track. So I've created a stereo track. So obviously not a true stereo, it's the same track repeated, and panned left, right. So I'm just going to punch up the levels of that. So I want to, I'm just going to normalize this. So if I go up to the effects and normalize, and I'm just going to bring that up 4 decibels up to that. So that's giving me a stronger signal. And there's still plenty of headroom. I'm not going to do anything else really. I actually like all of the pops and crackles and the beeps. So I'm going to leave all of that in there. And so this, let's go back to the beginning. So I'm just going to take this first, if I get rid of that, I'm just going to delete that because I'm going to stretch it 3 times. So this is it's an effect called Paul stretch. So the stretch factor is 3 times. So we're looking at a clip that's about 45 seconds or a bit under a minute. And let's just get a preview of that. Right, so I'm just going to run that. Okay. So the reason I'm interested in this stretching the sound over time, the first project I used this in was a project with a group of artists that we'd been working out at Lake Mungo, and the project was about sky mapping and drawing on Indigenous sky stories and more sort of scientific aspects to star mapping. So different approaches to star mapping. And out at Mungo, I was doing a lot of field recording. using contact mics mainly on some of the structures, and doing some night evening recording out there in the lookout into the dunes. And so I wanted to get this sense of time in the sounds that I was working with. I don't know if anyone's been to Mungo, but it's an extraordinary place in terms of really feeling a sense of time, like ancient time. And yeah, so this stretch device was what gave me a way to kind of work with and transform the sounds that I recorded from that location as an expression of, you know, a massive time, a sort of geological time frame, an astronomical time frame. Some of the tracks that I made from that, I made this series of 4 compositions, and I think I might have played 1 or 2 of them at that fantastic conference that many of us were at Smith's Lakes. So this one, and to be honest, I can't actually remember what the original sound was for this. And I think also that I possibly put that through Paul's Stretch a number of times. So it's really pulled that sound out and abstracted it. So I was also listening to recordings of astronomers have made of stars, and they sound like this. So there is that incredible kind of sense of decay and a sort of reverb and space, you know, a space within the sound. So yeah, I guess this is the sort of process I go through when I'm working with field recordings. And I know that, you know, what I'm learning from AWSRG is this ability to really be able to go in and identify what's happening within the sound through using the spectrogram. And as I said, I've got, you know, a long way to go with that. But that idea of being able to visualize the sound is really exciting to me through the spectrogram. And even though I haven't worked with this within, you know, in terms of editing, I have actually drawn images from the spectrogram into very large digital prints and exhibited those. So it provides a very rich source for me in the idea of you know, being able to visualize audio, you know, digital audio and the analog waveform as well. So yeah, just gives you a little insight into how I use Audacity. I mean, I guess, yeah, so these are positive aspects for me. It's a very simple program. I can bring the information, for example, from Andrew, from Isotope, into looking at the spectrograms. There's also plenty of YouTube videos that I watch online to start working and understanding what's happening in the spectrogram. But there are, there are, like with any software, but what I find with Audacity are, currently I'm finding it quite unstable with this update I've done. I opened up a project I'd started. I was just testing things out. Opened it up this morning and everything had gone. There was only one sound left, and that's when I sort of did some research to find out what was happening with that version. So, it poses some issues for me to be kind of careful with, and it's once the user is aware of some of the pros and cons, then that's good research to have done to be able to find a way to work with a level of confidence and a level of trepidation with it as well. I use Pro Tools at work, and I'll finish up now, but I use Pro Tools, but I just use such a tiny level of it. I don't have the experience or the confidence to really use Pro Tools yet. It's such an incredible program, has such depth to it. So this works for me in doing some of the effects I'm interested in tandem with my vision editing program. Yeah, so...
Yeah, just quickly, the plugins that you can access from Audacity.
The what?
Do you do filtering and EQ and noise reduction and things like that? Do you use the plugins very much?
Yeah, depending on what, they're all up here. So, the EQ is, so there are things down here. I use these sparingly. If I have if there's a lot of noise, I want to pull out. Noise reduction is there. But generally I'm topping and tailing. I'm cleaning, pulling out a bit of noise, adjusting levels. So I don't do a huge amount of filtering. But like I said, it depends how my audio is, because I'm that 60mm soundtrack. It's not a pristine recording, but I like all of that, the pops and crackles and the noise that came out of that 60mm projector. So I kind of work with that often.
All right. Any questions for Virginia? We can always come back. If we hand over to James now, then there might be questions that come out of the comparison between Reaper and Audacity. But anything for the immediate thing, or should we move on to James?
Andrew.
Just one, because you're already using the Creative Cloud type stuff, the Adobe stuff for Premiere, why aren't you using the one Audition? Is it just the plugin issue?
I probably haven't sat down and worked with Audition enough to kind of get my head around it.
The interface looks quite similar, so I don't know, it might be more stable. You might be already paying for it.
Yeah, I get it free from uni, but yes, you're right. I think what I found is I started working with that particular plugin and then ended up just working the sounds up in that. So, but auditions on my list for 2021. So,
I'm using Audition just because it was in my Creative Cloud suite. And I used to work for a uni. I used to get it for free, and now I'm paying through the nose for it. But
right.
but it's still. I'm looking at what you're doing and how it works. That the Audition, the learning curve won't be very steep, and it is very stable. So it's worth.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Andrew. Thank you. I just Andrew. Oh, Andrew, you said also, has anyone ever 3D printed spectrograms? So I remember when Leah came to that conference, she showed her work, and I think I've seen it on her website. So the sound had a visual component, which was this beautiful kind of 3D of, oh, actually it was of the waveform. It was a 3D waveform, computer-generated 3D waveform that was tracking as the audio moved. I don't know if anyone can remember that. It just struck me very beautiful. So it's like this sort of moving mountainscape.
I can remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. But the spectrograms visually, I blew it up, so they were just massive kind of digital chunks. So they were this, steps of the spectrogram. It was, actually, I've got it here. I'll just unwrap it and show you.
Whilst Virginia's doing that, this is Chris. I've been playing with a variety of software recently, and I love Adobe Audition, but I resent paying the monthly fee for it for other programs that I don't want. So this is why I'm interested in this session, because I'm looking for other options. But on one of the options that I have looked at in recent weeks is something called Spectral Layers. They had a half price offer, and I think I bought it for about $20 or something like that, $25 to do spectral editing. It wasn't what I wanted for spectral editing, but it has a function in there that will allow you to show a waveform with peaks in it, so sort of a spectrogram type thing built into the waveform, and then you can tilt it, then you can sort of rotate it, and it grows out of the screen at you. Ooh. It's very weird. For what I want, I couldn't see any help to it whatsoever. I found it thoroughly confusing. But spectral layers, it does and the basic form. It's got three forms. This was spectral layers elements or something. The cheapest version. But anybody interested in artistic effects coming out of sounds, it was something I've never seen before.
Sounds great.
I have a suspicion that software is made by a company that's really been pushing the limits of what it's not only audio software. I think they do text-based software as well, and they do a suite for digital publishing. But they're a company that do really affordable software that does some pretty extraordinary things, if I'm thinking of the right people. But yeah, that'd be interesting to follow up on, Chris. See whether there are particular aspects to that software that might be appropriate for us nature folks. It sounds a very affordable price point, even if it wasn't special.
It wasn't what I wanted for spectral editing. Your isotope has proved to be much better for me on that front, Andrew, and that's the route I'm following right now.
Yeah. All right.
I just want to show you this because, Sue, this is the Region Honeyeater. This is the Region Honeyeater soundtrack. So this is its call here, the yellow. And so this was in a show, an extinction show, actually, at the end of 2019. And the show ran up to that date, the end of November, which is the remembrance of, the Remembrance of Lost Species. It's an International Day of Remembrance of Lost Species. So I made this big print of the spectrogram of the Regent honeyeater. Not a lost species yet, but certainly critically endangered. Anyhow, it was beautiful making that and kind of looking at that, at the bird's call, up on the wall as this big print. Thanks for listening, everyone. Oh, Hollis.
Thanks, Virginia, for that really terrific presentation. I've got just a couple of questions, and I'll ask them together, and then just let you respond. I'm just curious if you're a Mac or a PC user.
Mac.
Mac, okay. Because I'm a Mac user. My partner is an expert in Pro Tools, and he uses Audacity a lot. I've used Audacity in the past and found it very unstable, and I've switched in the last maybe decade to Amadeus, which I find they're almost really similar in a lot of ways, but it doesn't crash very much. And I'm just wondering if you've tried that. And my go-to would be Amadeus and Isotope RX, and those two get me through every situation.
Great. I haven't tried Amadeus. Thank you.
It's only, I think, $30 US or something.
Okay.
Pay a bit, but not much, and I find it doesn't have those kind of crash issues.
Great. Thank you.
I thought I'm probably thinking of Sibelius, but Amadeus isn't a music software program, like a composition program, is it? Hollis?
And so Amadeus and Finale are music notation software.
So it is.
Sibelius and Finale are music notation software. Amadeus is very similar to Audacity.
Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying
I believe that maybe Vicky can confirm this. I think that maybe Vicky uses Amadeus as well.
I used it for making sonograms in particular. It does very nice black and white sonograms, and it's a good sound editor too, yes. I like it.
Good. All right, James, do you want to take over the driver's seat?
Yes. Hey, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Cool. I'll just share my screen.
Yes.
Is that showing up?
Yes.
It is? Cool. I'll just check that the sound's working quickly. It'll be quite quiet, but I'll raise the level in a bit. Is that coming through for everyone?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm going to run through a few things about Reaper, which is a very powerful program that you can download for free. They don't advertise it as being free. They basically ask for a donation. The only catch with using it for free is that when you open up the program, there's a window where you have to wait 10 seconds and then you got to click a button. So you can technically use it. I guess like it's the nice thing to do would be to fling them some money, but it does everything you need it to. So just the basics. You have playback. Actually, I'll just make this full screen. You have playback down the bottom here. You can take it to the start of the track with that button. You go into audio preferences. Is that showing up? But just sometimes it doesn't show the window.
Yes, it's showing. Yep.
Cool.
Fine.
So if you go to device, then you can choose whether you're using your built-in output or an interface. At the moment it's set to Zoom, so that's all good. And when you open it up, there's no tracks inside the door, so you just have to do Command T to make a new track. And so all I've done at this stage is basically I've dragged in a file, and that's about it. I've set up a few effects. One thing that's important to know is the files. If you move the file from the location that it's in when you drag it into the track, then it's not going to recognize it. So it's important to keep those files maybe in the folder with the session file. Probably a good idea. So I've got this recording of some lyrebirds. I'm not sure if it's one or multiple lyrebirds, to be honest. I'm not an expert in that area, but you can tell this obviously is a lot of nasty stuff that I don't want. It's a lot of handling noise. And this chunk around here, so you can just click wherever on the screen to move the cursor, and playback will start from that point. So it's from about here that I want to keep. And so to slice the clip, I just press S, and then I can click on that and just delete that. And then drag this to the start, and then I guess I'll just check that it's starting in a decent place. There's still a bit of my footsteps there, so I'll probably want to take it. Oh, and also at the moment it's set to grid, so it's not really necessary for editing field recordings. So if you go to this magnet in the top left here, that just turns it onto, it's on Pro Tools it's like slip mode, so it's just means that it's not going to stick to the grid. So then also it's quite a quiet recording, so one of the first things I'll do is if I just double click on the clip, then you get volume and pan here. So it looks like actually I've already boosted it a little bit, but I might boost it a tiny bit more. Just, it's probably too much, 6 decibels. Let's see, and then apply. Okay, actually I might even do a little bit more. There's a lot of background noise. I kind of picked a recording which has a fair bit of background noise, and so I had something to do with it. So
sorry, James, can you show me just how you open that screen again then? That
you just double click on the clip.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
No worries. So most of this is quite sort of uneventful, so I'm gonna take that back to about there. Let's say, first of all, if you want to fade into the file, then you can just sort of click up here. You'll see this little fade icon appears. So you can just drag that. And you can also, if you right click on that, you get a whole bunch of different options. So probably I just want a regular linear fade. And then, what am I doing? And then I'll do the same thing over here. Maybe I want to sort of slowly fade out, whatever. And then if there's a point in the middle of the recording, which, like if there's a pop or something that you don't want, you can slice, say just delete that. And then if you do this, it's just gonna create a crossfade. And I can click on that again and just get a linear fade. Cool, so that's sort of roughly, I guess, what I'd want to be working with at this point. What's the next thing I would do?
James, just quickly,
Yep.
You've put a linear fade there. Why wouldn't you use an equal power fade?
Good question. I mean, maybe that would be the better option. Yeah, I mean, it's not something... I think I'm used to Pro Tools and the fades I use in there, but you're probably right. Equal fade.
I'm just wondering whether this does something different, because in Pro Tools, if you do one of those parabolic fades, it seems to keep the volume levels consistent.
Right.
Whereas the kind of fade you've got there, you'll notice a little dip down. I was just wondering whether this was different.
No, that's an interesting point. Yeah, well, I can listen to the comparison. I wouldn't want such a long fade. I'd probably just want to make it.
It's fairly subtle, to be honest.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not a-
I mean, obviously that's a terrible place to do it. I'm just sort of showing that you can do those crossfades. Yeah, I think it's probably best just to experiment with the different types and see which works the best. I'm guessing that would be the equal? I'm not too sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm still using this program on quite a basic level, but it is handy being able to just right click and change that really easily. So the next thing I would probably do is try and get quite a bit of background noise. So is that someone? Does someone want to ask a question, or I'm just getting a bit of noise?
James, are you Mac or Windows?
I'm Mac.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Within your blend.
Yep.
Within your blend, if you go to that where you joined,
Mm-hmm.
if you stretch that out, if you click right in the middle rather than at the edges,
Yep.
right in the middle and right click now, right click.
Oh right.
You
Oh
can
wow.
now
Okay.
get, a different kind of
Ah,
a blend.
I've learnt something new. Thank you very much. Oh, that's cool. So maybe something like that. Yeah, I probably want to put it somewhere there, or yeah. Anyway, that would take a bit of time to find the perfect place. I mean, I was actually kind of happy with that section of the recording. There wasn't any sort of handling noise or anything like that. So I guess in this case, I'll just get rid of that. So the audio will still be there when you. Let's say you slice and delete a section, it's still going to be there if you drag it out. So I'll just go back and put a fade, maybe just one of those, yeah, something like that. So the next thing I'd probably do is go into effects, and there's some pretty good stock effects within Reaper. So I've basically got an EQ, the rear EQ is quite good. If I wanted to add another effect, I go add, and it comes up with this dialog box. And so as you can see, I've got all my plugins in here as well as the stock effects. I think the Cocos that's definitely all, they're all built into Reaper. And then there's also the JavaScript effects. So there's some pretty interesting stuff in there as well. But for this, I just want to use some basic EQ, a little bit of compression. So what I've got here, start with an EQ, which is just essentially cutting out some of the lows, and I've just picked a couple points to notch and just sort of, I've been slightly creative with it, I suppose, just trying to use my ears and hear what sounds good. I mean, it's not a massive difference. I could probably go a bit harder on some of it, I'm not sure. But so basically that's the rear EQ is like basically a sort of standard for I don't know what you call them. You get 4 notches or whatever sort of type of EQ you want to use there, and then you've got Refer, which is more of a you can get a bit more exact with the frequencies you want to notch out, so you can go up here and that you got I usually use the flat. I'm not really sure exactly what the other ones will sort of smooth them out, but if there was a particular frequency I wanted to drop, I might sort of, you can just add points by double clicking and just moving them around like that. For this particular recording, I don't think I would use that. It's probably more if I was going to be a bit more creative and a bit more extreme with the EQs. So I'd probably just keep the basic rear EQ I've got here. And then the rear compression is just a basic compressor. The only reason I'm using that is because there's a couple parts in the recording which are a bit intense and loud, so I'm just sort of using that subtly to drop those parts down a little bit. And then I've got another EQ just to sort of a bit more sort of creative EQing going on there, just boosting a little bit of the sort of low highs. And Reaper's also actually really good for routing. I find it quite intuitive. So you've got this route button here. So let's say I wanted to do some more processing to this. You might not want to do all of that processing on this track because this can get a bit cluttered. So I can go into route and go into add a new send. And I've already got a track here which I can send to. So if I just go to track 2, and then you've got, you know, post fader or pre fader, depending on what you want to be doing. But for the purposes of this, I probably just want post fader. And then I've got track 1 and 2, so the stereo from track 1 going into the stereo of track 2. And when I do that, I'd also want to untick this box in the top left, which is the master send. So that will mean that, so if that's checked, then this track will be sent to the master as well as track 2. So that's not what I'd want, because then you'd be doubling up on the sound. So uncheck that one. And if I go into route in track 2, then it'll come up in receive. And I could have done it the opposite way around. I could have just gone into track 2 and add new receive. So that's really handy. And so let's say I get my recording how I want it to sound, level, I'm happy with the levels, I'm happy with the EQ and the general sound of it. To export it, I select so just click and drag, and then Shift R, which makes the region. And then if I go into File, Render, and I go into, what do I do here? Region Matrix. So hang on. Selected regions. So up here, you select selected regions. Then I go into the region matrix, the region manager, and if it's come up with region 1, which is what I want to export, and I move across to the render matrix. I have to click on that and just specify that it's the master mix that I want to actually bounce out, and then I can close that, and then apply, and then no files. Why is it doing that? I've got to select that, I think. Yeah, okay, so if I just click on that, and I've got the master mix selected, then I just go render file. I can go here, I've got the sample rate set to 44,100, which I probably want to set that to 48. And then I can browse here. Let's say I just want to bounce it to the desktop. Yep, you can name it here, and then render file. And that's done it. So yeah, so it's quite basic what I've run through, but that's essentially what I'd be doing if I was working with these sort of recordings. I've done more, I guess, creative multi-channel works using Reaper, which is a lot of fun, and I find it really handy using all the effects. Are very, like, I just like the layout of how. Oh, what's going on? Okay, I got to close this one. I really like the format of the effects. You can also open up multiple effect windows from different tracks, and you can even say I want to copy over this EQ into track 2. I can just drag and drop that, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I think that's probably about it with what I was planning to go through, but yeah, if there's any questions, happy to take them on.
Yes, I'm wondering what was the purpose of routing to track 2?
So in this situation, there isn't much purpose, to be honest. I would be using that feature more so if I was doing, for example, this multi-channel work that I was working on, which was using electromagnetic sound. So I was doing a lot of manipulation. So basically, it's for a organizational purpose. So if I've got too many effects in here, it can get a bit busy, and it can be nice to sort of separate them just to have a cleaner workflow. And I was doing things like I was taking a sound and then routing the low frequencies to one track and then the highs to another, and then you can sort of manipulate them separately. But in the case of something where I'm just trying to clean up the audio, I would say it's not really necessary.
But nothing actually happened on your screen when you routed it, right? I still don't quite understand what's going on when you do that.
Okay, so I think I've got it routed now. So this is track 1 is being sent to track 2, and then when I've unchecked that master send, so the audio is coming through track 2 now. So if I go into, let's just for the sake of it, I'll chuck on something which you'll notice. So this is a sort of glitch effect. So that's an effect I've put onto channel 2, but it's affecting the sound from track 1.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I was expecting something to appear on your. I was expecting the waveform to appear and couldn't figure out.
Oh, no. Actually, an important thing that I did miss, I probably should have shown this earlier. If you right-click on this audio here and go into spectral edits, and you can show the spectrogram as well. Oh, that doesn't look right. Oh, yeah, it takes a bit of time. So yeah, that's probably something I should have shown at the start, but yeah.
I noticed that when you did that routing, James, see the little route symbol?
Yep.
Those, when you routed the tracks and turned off the master, that little master thing, those colours changed. So
yeah, right. I haven't actually noticed that. Yeah.
they must indicate.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that blue
That's
line
right.
represents the master. Yeah, and then
The green, yellow,
and then if I
and
say
blue.
deleted that, then yeah, so the yellow must be the first send, and then I'm guessing if I do multiple sends, let's say I make another track, try and send that to track 3. I was expecting another line to come up. But
Oh, yes,
oh, no,
me
there is actually a faint line there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So a little visual indicator.
Yeah, that's pretty handy. Yeah, cool. Does that make sense to everyone, the routing?
Yeah, it's simpler than Pro Tools. That's
way simpler than Pro Tools. Yeah.
Thanks, James. Once you've got the spectrogram there, have you ever found a way of putting an axis, a vertical frequency axis on a spectrogram?
What? Sorry, vertical frequency axis.
Yeah. There's no axis on that. We don't know how many kilohertz each of your.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I've been looking for that and I can't find it anyway.
Right. I'm wondering if sometimes if you move the cursor, it'll tell you, but it doesn't look like it's doing that. Wondering if there's an effect that might do that.
Somebody else told me it couldn't be done, but I.
Right.
And I can't find it.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just a simple representation. I I think there are some spectral effects. I'm not sure if they offer any of those sort of capabilities. No, it doesn't look like it. It's just the spectral hold, which isn't exactly what we'd want. Yeah, you're probably right then. It probably can't be done.
Okay, thanks.
No worries.
James, I'm just wondering if you could comment on the. Oh, actually, first of all, there are two questions. One from both in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
You might want to have a quick look. And
where's the chat? There we go. Yes, the track does have a lot of clipping. That was but that was not in the section that I've tidied up. Inflection points. Could you explain what you mean by that, Sue?
Yeah. Oh, hi, James. Sorry, when you were looking for a word for notches.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah. So what was the view menu? What was that in relation to?
I wanted to see a scale on your spectrogram, but
Yeah.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, obviously I'm still quite new to the software, so I'm learning a lot as I experiment. But it's good. I've picked up a couple new things today, so thanks for that.
Yeah, there's a question from Rob. Could you mute one and click on 2?
Yep. So at the moment, sorry, I might have unrouted it, did I? Yeah, I would have thought that should be coming through. Why is that not coming through? Okay, so yeah, I guess if I'm muting it, so let's say I wanted it to go through to track 2 while this is muted, then I think I would go here and go pre-fader. Let's see if oh no, pre-effects maybe. I would have thought that should be playing. Sometimes it gets a bit fiddly with the routing.
Is it muted? Is the track muted?
The first track is muted, but I would have thought you should be able to. If it's being sent pre-fader, then I would have thought it would send it before the muting, if that makes sense. But to be honest, I'm not too sure why it's not doing that.
It's a lovely recording.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of background noise. I actually did use RX to try and tidy it up a little bit, which yeah, is a lot better for being more.
Where was the recording made, James?
It was at a campsite called Kirth Kiln in Victoria, at just out of Gembrook, if you know where that is. Close to Emerald. Yeah, not too far from Dalesford.
Okay. Vicky's just saying, could we hear the whole the recording. I think
sure,
it's only
sure.
it's
Yeah,
not,
yeah. It's only a couple minutes, yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that not doing anything?
It sounds very characteristic of Victorian lyrebirds.
Yeah.
James, just a comparison with what Virginia was saying earlier about destructive editing. Does Reaper work in a similar way, that you really need to make a backup of your file, or what's your usual workflow in that regard?
No, I haven't had any issues with that before. I think the main thing is just making sure that the files that you actually import are in a location that you know and it isn't moved.
Yep. So I presume that all the edits that you do on a file are non-destructive.
No, exactly.
And if you so if you actually want your final processed file, then you have to do an export or a render.
Yeah, it's not going to affect the actual file that you've imported in any way.
Right. Okay. So in that sense, it works similar to tools.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think it's, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like a simpler version of Pro Tools. But, I mean, I haven't even scratched the surface with a lot of there's a lot of fine-tuning you can do to sort of make it suit your own workflow, which I don't really know much about. I think if you go into actions, so you've got this action list, and there's a whole bunch of different, I'm not exactly sure, different settings you can change and ways you can alter the workflow.
So they're kind of like...
Sorry, go on.
They're kind of like processes that you set up beforehand. Is that for batch processing, or are they just one-off processes that you can like shorthand?
To be honest, I haven't played around with this side of the door that much. I do remember I was doing a project which was using Reaper as a way of sending control MIDI data, and there was something, I believe, in the way that it was sending the MIDI that I needed to go into the actions, and I wish I could remember exactly what it was, but it gets into quite technical sort of stuff that I don't think would be necessary for this kind of workflow. But to be honest, I can't speak too much on what this is. I guess, I mean, there's like next project tab. I'm wondering if that's just you can change shortcuts and sort of, I mean, at the moment I think I can only have one Reaper session open at a time, but I know there is a way to enable it to have multiple sessions open at the same time, so that might have something to do with that.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's stuff like this, bypass underlying envelopes outside automation lines, so I guess it's just like extended settings.
That sounds like quite a mouthful.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't got that deep into it.
Yeah. No, that looks as though that's going well into the weeds.
Yeah.
Look, I am impressed with Reaper, I've got to say. It does look like Pro Tools Lite in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
In
And
some
it doesn't
ways
take
better
as long to. It's better in a lot of ways, in my opinion. I mean, for certain tasks, I suppose, but it loads up a lot quicker than Pro Tools, for starters. It seems to. It doesn't. I've never had it crash on me, I don't think. Maybe once. Yeah, it definitely seems very reliable.
And it's got a spectrogram too.
Yeah.
Which I don't think.
I don't think it does.
Yeah. And I think Pro Tools now, it's I don't know. I downloaded a version of it a year or so ago. It looks as though it tries to upload all your audio to the cloud.
Oh, really?
You can work on it locally,
Okay.
and I think you can save locally, but it's really sort of set up for studios that have got good internet connections and upload to the cloud, whereas this looks very much like you just work on your local machine. You don't need.
Yeah, exactly. And I was using it on my old laptop, which was starting to slow down and was a bit clogged up, and yeah, never had any issues. Pro Tools was crashing all the time, so it's yeah, and the fact that it's free is pretty awesome as well.
Yeah, it's a good price point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is there anything like, I know Pro Tools, you actually need a sound card or an external device. This just runs totally on the CPU of your laptop.
Yeah, exactly. Pro Tools, I'm pretty sure you can use your built-in output with Pro Tools. I think maybe in the past you couldn't, but I've definitely used it with the built-in output.
Rob is just saying, I often use one of the actions to set LUFS levels.
Okay, yeah.
I've never seen that. What's that acronym for, LUFS?
I couldn't answer that, to be honest.
Okay.
I know I've heard it a number of times, and I have a vague idea. I think it's sort of the standardized
yeah, I think
scale or something.
I think LU, loudness unit something or other. It's for. I'm guessing that it's a kind of broadcast output format.
Yeah.
I know I was speaking with a colleague in the UK who said that he was doing a program for the BBC and they required him to actually supply the audio compressed in a format that was their regular format. So it's ready to be broadcast.
Yeah.
So
is it negative 14 lufs or something like that? I can't remember.
There it is. Hollis says loudness units relative to full scale.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty lackluster with this record. I mean, it's not. I haven't really checked that it's I want to do a bit more tinkering to make sure the levels are all sitting where I want them. But obviously, it was rushed.
I really like the fact that you can do your edits in this and do it all using the spectrogram. That's a game changer, I think, for us.
Mm-hmm.
once you've done a crossfade, can you go back and adjust that crossfade afterwards? It's not a...
Yes, yeah. So, yeah, just click on that icon again and you can just drag. Is that what you mean?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's not like a linear process that you have to undo until you get back to that fade and change it, redo.
No, thankfully not. Yeah, yeah. I find it quite intuitive overall, the program, like it. And something I may not have mentioned to Zoom. You can use the mouse scroll, and I'm sure you could probably set up if there's not just a default way of using the keyboard as well. Pro Tools, it's RT. It doesn't look like that's working. But yeah, I find it quite handy just being able to scroll, and then if I click somewhere and then I scroll, it's going to zoom into that point.
Yeah. What plugins can you access? What platforms does it support?
So, I'm pretty sure most of my plugins work on here.
So it's got VST. I can see those ones.
Yeah. So it's got all my sound toys, my fab filter. I think I can get iZotope as well. IREX. Declick, for example. Yeah, iZotope's working fine. That actually loaded really quick as well. I think in Pro Tools it generally takes a bit longer.
Oh, that's fantastic. So if you've got RX loaded on your system, you can bring those tools into Reaper.
Yeah.
Or those modules.
Yeah. So I've been using RX within Pro Tools a lot because there's a, I think it's RX Connect, where you can take a clip and send it into, you can sort of flip back and forwards, which is quite handy. So I think generally, if I was working with a recording like this, I probably wouldn't be using Reaper, to be honest, but it's very quick and simple. So for those reasons, I might.
Yeah. You were saying that you're using this as the free version, and I don't know whether you said this earlier or whether I heard it from you previously, but the only downside of the free version is that you have to wait 10 seconds or so for a pre-screen to...
Exactly. Just wait till the button changes to say still evaluating, and you click on that and it's fine.
Right. Yeah, that's very So there's no other limitation to its functionality. You can export and save. All that. Right.
Which is quite surprising, but I think it's sort of part of their philosophy. They wanted to keep it open source. I know you can get in a lot deeper and actually play with code, and I'm not even sure how you... Somewhere is it... I wouldn't even know where to start, to be honest. But I've seen people doing some pretty complex stuff with it.
Okay, have we got any other questions for either James or Virginia?
Okay, Chris has just said that it's only $60 contribution to pay for it. Okay, so it's... I mean, I should really fork out that $60 considering I've been using it a fair bit, and it's a very handy software. So.
All those 10 seconds, they add up.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Any other questions? Well, thank you both. Yeah, it's fascinating to see this. I must admit, I've heard that Reaper was a really complex software, and but it's looking a lot simpler than I thought it would be, and a lot more functional.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot more.
It is complex, but if you can use it on a really basic level. I mean, I found it actually one of the easier doors to pick up. It just felt, I think sometimes I get confused with how it's playing and the screen moves along with it, and it seems like I'm always losing the bit of audio in some other workstations. But I really like the way that you can just, I think maybe because it's similar to, I started out using Acid Pro, and maybe it's just I was used to that format. But yeah, I do find it really handy. Just, I know I can always just, if I want to get to that point, just click there, and it's so easy to jump around.
Yeah, navigation is one of those things in audio. You really want it to be smooth and intuitive.
Yeah, definitely.
If you want a quick comment from a beginner, I first opened Reaper about six or 8 weeks ago, and I found it totally intimidating. I'd used Adobe Audition for a long time,
right?
But there are so many different routes to doing something. There's 20 different ways of doing the same thing. I found it very intimidating. The 500-page PDF user manual didn't necessarily encourage me either.
It's definitely deep.
They've got a lot of tutorials on the Reaper website. They've got a whole host of tutorials. You've sometimes got to know what question to ask to get it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think a lot of it comes down to what you're used to, because I started out. Sorry, what was that?
Sorry, there was something called the Reaper channel that's got tutorials, and I found that very straightforward, very, very easy to follow. I moved on here. He had a few exchanges, set me straight, and now I'm feeling much more comfortable with it.
Okay, that's great. Really great to hear.
Yeah, and Rob's just saying there are tutorials on YouTube which are good as well.
Yeah.
Could I ask James a question? What application are you using this software for?
So I have mainly used it for multi-channel routing. So it's quite good for, I mean, not all workstations have multi-channel capabilities. So it's quite good just being able to set up say an 8 or a 16 channel track and be able to, route various tracks into that.
So what kind of, what's your final product though? Are you a sound artist, or like, it doesn't look to me like the sort of thing you could do any kind of acoustic analysis with?
It's not so much acoustic analysis. I mean, RX is way better for that kind of thing. But I think it's definitely largely the routing capabilities and how simple that's set up. And also the onboard effects. Some of them are quite interesting and just very simple and easy to use. It's not, obviously, like, you can tell the actual the design of the software is quite simple, and I think they've sort of, even if you look closely, it's quite pixelated, and I think they've sort of, the fact that it's there's no real bells and whistles when it comes to the aesthetic side of it, it means that it's quite stable. And so I mean, like, the main purpose I've used it for is for setting up sound art installation sort of stuff.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And do you use it in combination with any other software as Virginia does, or do you just
I haven't a whole lot. I mean, I will sometimes, if there's an effect I want to use within Reaper, or if I just want to quickly show the spectrogram and do some sort of sketchy experiments, I might start out in Reaper and then bounce something out and bring it into RX or Pro Tools or something like that. But yeah, for the most part, I've used it on its own. You know, but it's really great being able to. I don't think I was aware that I could use RX within it, which is pretty handy.
Mm. All right. Well, I think we might wrap up unless there are any last minute comments or questions.